Hello, and welcome to Origin Problem Solving. In this video, we're going to go over Step 6, Take Action. And within Step 6, we're going to look at how can we prioritize our countermeasures, and then how do we track those countermeasures. Step 6 is a part of an 8-step process in lean problem solving. In our previous videos, we went over Step 0, Preparation, Step 1, Perception, Step 2, Define our problem, Step 3, Break down our problem, Step 4, Identify and locate, and Step 5, the root cause analysis, or the origin. So let's take a look at our example that we've been working through. Let's zoom into Step 6. If you remember from our previous video, we had two different problems that we were solving, and therefore we came to two different root causes. The first root cause was we don't have a tension gauge to determine accurate tension. The second root cause was air pressure isn't high enough to keep the tracking paddle operating. Now, because we had two problems and two root causes, we're going to, at this point, begin strategizing how to eliminate those root causes. How are we going to make an impact on our gap? How are we going to reduce our gap? And this is where we want to start brainstorming those various ideas. And the best way I know how to do that is through an impact versus effort chart. In an impact versus effort chart, it's an X and Y axis. And on that X and Y axis, the further north you would go on the Y axis, the greater the impact. Further to the right you would go on the X axis is the more effort that you have to put into it. In this area, you start categorizing your countermeasures in 4 different quadrants. The upper left quadrant would be your quick wins, your just do it. Let's get it done and move on. In the upper right quadrant would be your projects, sometimes major projects. These might take a little more effort to get the things done, but they still have a high impact. In the bottom left, these are your fill-ins, your if I have time type items. And then the bottom right, that's your thankless tasks, your money pits, things we generally won't be doing. Now, when you label this and you begin looking at these, you may circle some that you want to do now, and then others that you may want to do if the original, the easy ones, don't close the gap enough, right? So if you would do the easy, high impact ones first, if it closes the gap, then great, move on. If you make big improvements completing the high impact, low effort, but you're not quite there yet, then you can start picking out some different projects that you want to do in order to further close that gap. So in this first one, we did label several ideas, all of them in the lower effort, higher impact location. There were things such as buy a tension gauge, create a standard of what tension for each felt, train all applicable positions on that tension gauge, add to reoccurring training, add to layered process auditing. And in that case, we're going to probably do all of those. Looking at the other one, we have just a few. One of them was increase the air pressure at the controller. The second one, and this is still high impact, but it's a higher effort, is replace all the hoses for potential leaks. And then we had something that would have a lower impact and is a high effort, and that would be replace the compressor. Maybe someone felt that the overall compressor pressure wasn't high enough to maintain for the plant. So these are 3 items, and in these 3 items, we of course would do the low effort, high impact one first, which was simply increase the air pressure at the controller. That's something we could do it. It's a just do it. It's something we can do right now. So let's try that and see if that helps. If that made some improvement, but not enough improvement, then maybe we start looking at replacing hoses, old and deteriorated hoses maybe. Maybe we do both. And then lastly, if this still isn't affecting enough of the gap, maybe we do look at replacing the compressor. So now that we have our action items, how do we track them? I'm going to show you detailed action plan, and this is the minimum required items on here in order to have a detailed action plan. So 1 is your action item, 2 is your owner, 3 is your due date, and 4 is your status. So for example, let's look at the first one, buy a gauge. So that's the action item. The owner is G Howe. So G Howe is one owner, and he is not a team, he is not a group, he is not a department. If everyone owns something, nobody owns it. So we have a single owner in this spot. The due date for this would be March 27th, and the status is green. The next one would be determine appropriate tension by B or, and he is to have that completed by 4/1. Now let's look at the status. Green would mean it's on time and there's no roadblocks to prevent them from achieving the due date of 4/1. Yellow would mean that they would be off track but have a plan to get back on track. Whereas red means that they are off track and they have no plan to get it back on track. Sometimes you may have to move out due dates. I would suggest putting a single line through the original due date and writing a new due date. That's okay. However, if we see multiple dates being crossed out and the due date continuously being moved out, we know there's a problem. Maybe that's the time we get a champion involved. So that is it for step 6, take action. In the next videos, we'll look at monitor effectiveness and then standardize. So once we implement these action items, how are we going to monitor their effectiveness? And then finally standardize that success. If you like this video, please give me a simple thumbs up. If you want to see more, be alerted to more, please subscribe. Thanks for watching.